Thomas Wooden Railway. It's kinda complicated. Wooden Railway was the king of the Thomas toy world at one point, and it's still one of the most sought after toy lines today, even now while it's not being made anymore. When I was a younger kid, I had a little bit of everything Thomas, but eventually I got locked in on Wooden Railway, mostly for the character variety and the sets. And I've been collecting it off and on ever since then. For this video, I am going to show you everything I own, every engine and every piece of rolling stock. Here's the thing though, my collection, it's not exactly the biggest one you'll see online, not by a long shot. I don't have any prototypes or 1993 Thomases with staples, and no white-faced troublesome trucks either, and I don't really plan on getting any. And as you'll quickly see, I don't really collect a lot of the 90s stuff. I'm a 2000s kid, and that's mostly my collection. I also simply prefer to collect my favorite versions of characters, rather than every release ever made. And I know Wooden Railway talk can get divisive, so disclaimer, this is my collection. It's what I wanted to buy or somehow ended up with. And these are my opinions on these toy trains, and just because I don't have one version of a character doesn't mean I hate that version completely or anything. Sometimes I just wanted one. But nevertheless, feel free to share your opinions in the comments below. Without further ado, let's look at some wooden trains. Here's my oldest Thomas, dated 1998. Yeah, like I said, I don't own very many old wooden railways. This is such a classic toy. My definite favorite part about these old wooden railways is without a doubt their faces. Thomas's look is captured perfectly. I haven't had a Thomas with a wooden funnel since I was a kid, so I was really glad when I found this in a lot last year. I know I just went on a tangent about how I don't really care about other versions of the characters, but when it comes to Thomas himself, yeah, I'll always want to find new Thomases, even if I'm not actively seeking them out. Our second one's a pretty interesting one, the 10 Years in America Thomas. It's pretty much the exact stock standard Thomas at the time, except the white of the eyes and the white of the mouth are painted, and it looks kinda odd. The blacks of his eyes are just a little too small. I have a theory though. I've always thought that this Thomas was supposed to be inspired by the Strasburg Railroad's Thomas. I mean, it fits the 10 Years in America theme, he came with a red coach, and, like the face the engine used to wear, the pupils are quite small. I don't know, that's just a theory I've had. I got this for $10 at a train show a good number of years ago. I'd love to find his coach someday. For now though, I keep this Thomas on display next to my 10 Years of Thomas VHS. Although I used to keep him a little too close to that VHS, and I think his magnet erased Terrence the Tractor off of there, so oops. Here is a 2000 Thomas. I think I found him in a lot on Facebook Marketplace. Cool. But what if I had two of them? Yeah, here's another 2000 Thomas. I got him the exact same way. A lot on Facebook Marketplace. Now this isn't based on any research at all, but if I had to guess, if you're looking for an old Thomas with the plastic funnel, majority of what you find will be the 2000 version, all due to the fact that it came out the same year as Magic Railroad, so I assume they made a bunch. Here's the first item from my childhood, a 2002 Thomas, and he's kind of missing a certain part of himself. If I recall correctly, I had really scratched his eyes beyond recognition, and I got my grandma to paint in his eyes back, but with just a little bit of playtime that had quickly smudged. So he had a very messy face for most of his life. Then around the time I found out about flathead screwdrivers, I took off the face for some reason. I kinda wish I still had the face, it'd be a nice little memory. Ah well. And here's a proper 2002 Thomas. I'm quite fond of this one. I mean, it's just what would be Thomas in the next year, just without the boiler stripes, but I don't know. It has a nice look to it. I feel like the printing is slightly different, you know? I think the lines are just a little bit thinner. I can't really tell. Here is a surviving Thomas from my own childhood. I can tell you this one survived because it was in a box for about 3 years, and I didn't know where that box was, or that it even existed, but that's a story for another time. This is our first post-2003 engine, and that's when they stopped dating all the wheels, and I didn't want to have to check the code and record them all, so for all of these I'm not gonna say a year. I did look up this one though. It's March 2007. I'm pretty sure I had 2 standard Thomases. If I'm recalling correctly, I'm pretty sure I got this one at a museum gift shop. The other Thomas I had as a kid was from the Pirates Cove playset, which was released in 2008, so I can assume this is the one I got individually. This is what I call my pristine Thomas. You'll see it as the default one in my series. I found this on eBay in 2020 with the Shock Thomas. That was a cool listing. Here's another default Thomas that I got as a part of a Facebook Marketplace lot. Awesome! Here's the worst default Thomas that I own, and probably of the whole range if we're not counting Thomas Wood. That face is just so, masculine, but it still looks like a little boy's face. It's so strange, I don't like it. Here's a 2013 Thomas. The face is such an improvement. For the most part, Mattel's greatest strength was their faces. And here's a post-2015 Thomas. I actually didn't know that in 2015 Mattel started indenting the wheels. I thought they did that the whole time. I got this at a mall during a marching band competition day when I was in 8th grade. That was a cool day. On to variants now. Here's a battery-operated Thomas. If you can't tell by the way this thing looks, this one does not work. These are really odd looking. I had a couple of these as a kid, and I only ever played with them just to push them to their limits, like give them as many cars as I could or make them climb hills. Never really used them for much else though. Here is the limited edition Thomas Comes to Breakfast. I got this individually at a train show, so I didn't get the plaque that it comes with, and I have no clue which of the 50,000 this one may be. And here's the Thomas Comes to Breakfast from the Adventures of Thomas 3-pack. This one removed the buffers and gave him some boiler bands. Though other than that, it's still the same Thomas. But I think they made a lot more than 55,000. Also in the Adventures of Thomas pack, here is the paint-splattered Thomas. A very fun variant from a very boring movie. But I really like his extremely sad face. And I have another one that I got in a marketplace lot. Haha, awesome! And here is the snow-covered Thomas. Or you may better know him as the Winter Wonderland Thomas. But mine here is the snow-covered one. They're the exact same other than the name on the bottom. Why does this one have a different name? Well, it's from the Rumble and Race Mountain set. One of my favorites from childhood. And because the original model is based on the episode It's Only Snow, an episode where Thomas doesn't have his typical blue snowplow, they made the snowplow gray. Which is still weird because in that episode, the snowplow is brown. I'm guessing it was changed to gray so that way it could look a bit more marketable. All the other toys did this exact same thing too. I get they had to promote Season 6, but they should have just made it blue. Oops, I completely forgot to get these two guys out because I keep them in a separate Christmas decoration box. Here's 2 Thomases with Santa hats. They're cool little items, though you can probably guess which one I'm going to display over the other. Here's a shocked-faced Thomas. Simple variant, but a cool one. Covered Thomas. Based on that delightful episode that everyone loves for the events that happened in the episode and not just because it was the CGI demo. This is still a cool toy. I'm glad they reused the face from the paint-splattered Thomas. I really love this sad-ass face. Well, son, I think it's time we talk about Thomas and the Bees. Here's a bee-covered Thomas. It's based on that one Season 13 episode where there's bees. This is pretty much just the Thomas version of the limited edition James Goes Buzz Buzz. Which, fun fact, since I don't have the James for that, but I do have the plaque, I keep this Thomas on display there. It's number 4033 out of 50,000. That's cool. Seabound Thomas. He's based on that time that Thomas was lost at sea in Misty Island Rescue. I'm glad this item exists. It takes the Thomas Comes to Breakfast face and puts it on a standard Thomas. But there's one fatal flaw. Since on the Breakfast Thomas the eggs were molded on top of the face, they left that molding on there and it just kind of makes him look like he has sagging skin on his face. It's strange, but I'm still glad they made this. Look, when I said my entire collection, I meant literally everything. Here's Thomas wheels that I turned into scrap wheels. The reason these are in this spot is because they're the Seabound Thomas wheels. The first time I bought a Seabound Thomas, the wheels were not properly aligned, so they kind of bounced around. I eventually bought another one and then used the top half of Thomas for a custom. And since these wheels are useless, I turned them to scrap. Gold Thomas. This was originally made for the 60th anniversary. However, this one I have is just a generic Gold Thomas that likely came with one of the DVD releases. As you'll see later, I did have the 60th anniversary 3-pack with Percy and Diesel, but I unfortunately lost Thomas to time. It's really unfortunate. I used to love playing with the Golden Thomas. I'd use it as like a magic railroad, like gold dust enchanted Thomas or something. This is an excellent model. They do the metallic bits on plastic really nice. Remember this for the next one. 2015 Thomas. Yeah, they didn't exactly do that metallic bit right. And it's such a shame too, because I kind of like what everything else on this Thomas is going for. It's got like a faded blue with like metallic accent bits. It's pretty cool. But this weird plastic gold molding is just, yeah. At the very least, I wish they left the smoke box just the default black. I can tolerate the wheels, but the smoke box is just too much. This came in the Thomas Engine gift pack in 2015 for the 70th anniversary. And most fans were not buying this for this Thomas. They were buying it for this, the 1942 Thomas, based on Wilbert Awdry's broomstick handle Thomas he made for Christopher. This thing is legendary. It's so cool that Wooden Railway decided to make this. I love the face as well. It kind of resembles the 2002 to 2012 default Thomas face. I really like that. It makes this pack have a reference to Railway Series, CGI Series, and Model Series. This is a top tier toy made ever. I found this on that very same marching band trip to a mall in 8th grade. I have an anniversary inspired shelf, and this item is pretty much the centerpiece of that. It's so cool. And here's my last Thomas, a custom LBSC 70 Thomas from The Adventure Begins. I made this in 2020, and I'm not too big on custom making, but I think this one turned out alright. There's definitely some things you could improve, but I'm kind of impressed with myself. And despite the fact I made this 6 years ago, this is the first video this has ever been in. I've posted photos online, but this is the first video. Good for him. Finally, another character. Here's old reliable Edward. He's a solid old style model, but there's something that's always been weird to me, and it's his number 2. So Edward has a very interesting number. It kind of like curves at the top end. And it's kind of got like a thinness in the middle. Well, Wooden Railway got the thinness, but they kept the like solid lined off end. So it looks strange. It's kind of like nothing else. I still like this Edward though. He has a very cheerful face. And here's my 2003 Edward, which is also my childhood Edward. He's in pretty good shape too, so that's nice. I've always been fascinated how they gave Edward 4 wheels. I don't know how, but it just kind of works, you know? I feel like if he had the standard 6 wheels, he'd look like, I don't know, too much. I feel like him having 4 wheels kind of makes him look like Edward. Is that weird to say? Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? And here's an old style Henry. And I don't know, I've never really been a fan of the old style Henry. For starters, he has the wrong tender. But the thing that bothers me more is the boiler. They gave him a very thin boiler, the same size as like Edward and James's. I would have preferred if they made him the same size as Gordon, but I think they went with not doing that so that way they could market Gordon as the big engine. And it's a shame, because I think Henry is probably the weakest of the main cast. And here's a 2003 Henry. I think he's a great improvement from the last one. And also, like Edward, this is my childhood model, and he's somehow survived pretty well. I think I even got him and Edward at the same occasion, which I think was my birthday in my 2nd grade year of school. So that's probably explaining how they're still in good quality. I got them at a little bit older of an age. People were definitely making fun of me for liking Thomas at this point. And here's my pristine Henry, the one you'll see in videos I make. I got this a couple years ago because I was kind of tired of like the little paint chip I had on my other Henry's front. Plus I preferred the lighter gray face to the darker gray face. This one's quite nice. Here's my childhood Gordon. I got him through the Gallant Old Engine VHS pack, which was one of my favorites to watch when I was at my grandparents' house as a kid. I remember for a time, my grandpa would put Gordon up on his top shelf with some of his other HO model trains. So Gordon was a special one. Also, because of Gordon's presence as the bonus engine, and for the fact he was on the cover of this VHS, I thought he was the titular Gallant Old Engine. I mean, look at him here. Doesn't he look so gallant? And here's my 2003 Gordon. Same Gordon you'll see in my videos. Now I do prefer to use this Gordon for the screen than the older one, mostly for the fact he has his tapered firebox. But the one thing I don't really like about this Gordon is his face. It's just too smooth looking. I feel like it doesn't really resemble any Gordon face at all. I kind of want to get a spare old style Gordon and another 2003 Gordon, and then put the old face on this body. I feel like that'd make the perfect Gordon. Although I do prefer the painted eyes. Here's the talking Gordon. I ended up with this via a Facebook Marketplace lot. I never really got the appeal of these talking wooden railway items. I mean, typically when a kid plays, they're doing the talking themselves. This item's pretty interesting because it's Gordon with like the Arthur-style six-wheeled bogie. Kind of like a weird what if they did this instead. Here's James, the 2001 James with the gold dome. Pretty cool item to have. I actually used to have another 2001 James as a kid, and that is right here. So this James is already pretty beat up from when I was a kid, and in 2020 I turned it into a very lazy custom of the Little Blue Engine from the Monster Under the Shed book. And I did an adaptation of that, and that is a pretty rough video. Don't ever watch that. I currently have him attached to a 2017 Henry tender. I no longer have the Henry that goes to it. So right now I'm just kind of waiting to turn this into like a generic background mainland engine or something. Here's a 2003 James. He's in a bit of a rough shape, but he has persevered nonetheless. Here's another 2003 James, and he is in even worse shape. He even has an older style tender because I don't have a matching 2003 tender. That's awesome. And here is my pristine James. You can see like little snowflakes in his wheels because I haven't like properly cleaned them since the Christmas episode I made in 2022. Oopsie daisies. Here's the beloved Busy as a Bee James. His face is just absolutely awesome, and the fact he's a bee is really cool, and everything about this is great. I love everything. And here's James with team colors. If you know what episode this is from, you know too much about Thomas, and people think you're weird for that. And here's the only RFI chipped engine that I own. Basically, the reason these have gold magnets is that you could get a set at the time, and then this would like interact with the set, and the set would like, I don't know, do something like James related. The gold name on the bottom is nice. I don't know, I never had any of these sets. Here's the battery operated James, and I don't have a tender for him. This one kinda barely works. I don't know, it's pretty touch and go. I don't really use it though. Here's a good one, the Introducing James, or the Origins James. The name is kind of complicated. It says Introducing James on the bottom, but the tender says Origins James. It's also called Introducing James on the box, so maybe it's that. So, I don't know, call it whatever you want. This item's pretty cool. I always love the Black Adventure Begins James. Here's Jolly Green Percy. This is a 2000 Percy. I got this one secondhand, and that front magnet is really rusted. I bet the kid who had this before me really liked remaking Percy Takes the Plunge. And here's my childhood Percy, dated 2001. This was my main Percy growing up, as I did not have a 2003 dated Percy. Since most of my collection was post-2003, I actually didn't really like this Percy because he kind of just stood out as the odd one. I desperately wanted a 2003 Percy, and as you'll see, I more than made up for that, though it wasn't until I was much older. Surprise! Here's a 2003 Percy. This is the one I'll use in my videos. It's a pretty neat condition one. I got it on eBay. It's awesome. Whoa, it's another Percy. I kinda call this one my cannon fodder Percy. If I ever want to do a crash scene, I'll sub this one in. Or, you know, I'll take him to the park and get photos. He likes to go outside. And here's a third Percy that I did not remember that I had till I was making this video, and I found him in my wooden railway box. Little kid me would be really happy to know that I have 3 of these. Holy crap, there's 4. But this one's a little bit different. This one says for display only. This means this was likely a part of a retail store's play table. Here's Coal Dust Percy. How disgusting. And here's Percy as seen in Percy's Chocolate Crunch. Yummers! Jack Frost Percy. He has succumbed to the yellowing of the rubber. He looks kinda gross now. I've always kinda loved how this is a Percy with the top cut off. It looks kinda funny. Here's Snow-Covered Percy. This is exclusive to the Rumble and Race Mountain set that I mentioned earlier. This actually isn't my Percy from childhood. For some reason, I decided to cut off his face and cannibalize him for my Bachman Percy. What the hell was 13-year-old me thinking? Just buy another Percy, you idiot. 60th Anniversary Limited Edition Silver Percy. This is my favorite of that 60th Anniversary 3-pack. This is mine from childhood, and it is very well loved, as this was the only Percy in this shape that I had, so I tended to use it a lot, and just kinda overlooked the fact he was silver. I'd also sometimes pretend he was a statue. Workin' hard or hardly workin', here's Hard at Work Percy. I love this exclusive face. I really wish they made a non-blushing version though. Still just a really great item. Here's a standard Mattel Percy. Of the main cast that Mattel remade, I kinda think Percy's the weakest. I just think there's something off about his face. It's like just a little too puffy. I also think it's slightly crooked. I don't know. Looks weird. Here's a recent find, Percy with Streamers. This is from that Percy and the Calliope 2-pack. Kinda wish I had the Calliope piece, cause that plays the original Thomas theme. I found this Percy in a flea market, and I thought, why not, it's $3. And then I was in a line for like 10 minutes, just waiting to buy this Percy. Here's an even more recent Percy, the Muddy Percy from the Sam and the Great Bell Sodor Storytime Collection set. I'll talk a bit more about that set when I get to Sam, but let's just talk about this Percy for now. I honestly am not a big fan of the Muddy engines. I much rather prefer variants that are like dust or coal soot covered. I feel like Muddy is like a very rare occurrence on the railway, but this Percy is based on the events of the book, so it's fine. Toby, oh Toby. This is a 2001 Toby, and this is the one I use on screen. I like it because it's a little bit taller than the 2003 version. Speak of the Devil, here's a 2003 Toby. It's pretty much exactly the same, but it's just a teeny little bit shorter. And here's my childhood Toby. He is likely from the 5-car gift pack, but we'll talk about that with some later items. Here's Duck, an item I didn't have as a kid, but I really wanted. This weirdly has no funnel. I assume since he doesn't have a typical smoke box, they just had no clue what to do. So they did nothing. He's certainly an odd duck. Here's probably one of the first Thomas items I ever bought myself, the Mattel Duck. I remember getting a Barnes & Noble gift card and knowing I had to buy this. I actually somehow ended up with 2 of them at one point, but I gave away the other. I think this one is such a major improvement from the last. Really wish they kept making this guy. Here's one of the only tender engines without molded coal that I have, and it's Donald. I ended up with this guy through a lot. It's cool to own at least one of the flat tendered engines. And here's my childhood Donald with the molded coal load. Like Duck, Donald and Douglas don't have a proper funnel, but in their case it's even weirder because they could totally just move up those 2 domes and pretend the first one is a funnel. I mean, it wouldn't have fit in with the later stuff, but whatever, at least he'd have a funnel. Alright, here's Douglas. Such a huge shame that after Lost Treasure, Donald and Douglas did not get Wooden Railway models. And it was kind of a bigger shame when Wooden Railway ended like 2 years after that. That sucked. 2006 Oliver. I don't own it, but the original classic Oliver is probably my least favorite Wooden Railway item, at least of that era. This 2006 Oliver though is absolutely lovely. This is my Oliver from childhood, and it also came in that 5-car gift pack with Toby. I wonder who else came in that. I'm so glad they decided to do an Oliver redesign in the year 2006. You wouldn't expect that. Here's the Matoliver. The Mattel Oliver. Why'd I say that? There's a couple steps down from the 2006 version. For one, he's missing the box on top of his boiler. He also has a boiler that's plastic in the middle, and it kind of creates a discoloration. I still think this is a solid release though. I definitely think the face is an improvement, as well as the brass safety valve. Here's that devious Diesel. I really love the scowling face he has. So funny story about this one. I stole it from the house of one of my elementary school friends. I'm sorry. And here's 60 Years Bronze Diesel. I used to pretend this was like the lady equivalent for the diesel engines. That led to some fun stories. And here's an old-style diesel from my childhood that I customized into a generic mainland diesel. I should probably touch up this model sometime. Daisy. Here's another childhood one, Daisy. I prefer the 2007 version. I really like the added makeup and the blue windows. I'm really glad I was given this as a kid and held on to it, because while she's not rare, she's kinda hard to find in good condition and for a good price. We're kinda on a childhood item streak. Here's my childhood Bill, and if my memory serves me right, I believe I got him at my 2nd grade birthday party, along with Edward and Henry. I got him via the Quarry gift pack, so that also means I have the Farquhar Quarry car! Yay! Wait, no, that's not the important part. Where the hell's this thing's wheels at? Yeah, I have Ben. I have been what? No, I have been the twin engine. Shut up! I think these are both pretty nice models. I definitely prefer them to their older versions. Though I do kinda wish they made them like a little bit shorter. And I don't mean in length, I mean in height. Bill and Ben are very squat characters, and even though this is Wooden Railway, I do wish that had been portrayed just a little bit. Here's the Diesel Boko. He's a bit harder to find now due to the fact that he's Boko, and that means he's expensive for some reason. Luckily, I got this for $10 about like 8 years ago now. That's a long amount of time. I'm scared. Here's Mavis. Like Bill and Ben, I got her in that Quarry pack. You can kinda see she's had some touch-ups over the years. I really wish they did a proper updated Mavis. They did do one that was covered in quarry dust, but it was limited to Toys R Us and you can't really find it today. It's a shame because her default Wooden Railway model is kinda bland looking. Bluebells Forever, here's Stepney. This is one of the few items that I really prefer the older version than the newer version for, though I do wish he had a plastic funnel. Though I can't lie, that 2003 Stepney, it really called to me as a kid. I had that Thomasaurus Rex book that they based a playset on, and I always looked at that advertisement. It was mocking me.
Not bad. I've seen worse. At least you're all clean.
D261, or simply known in Wooden Railway as the Diesel. This is one I got just a few years ago. It was sold to me by my good buddy Nathan TWR, who I hate. But hey, he sold it to me for a pretty good price, and I appreciate him for that. This is one of the few Wooden Railway items that I've held, and I've thought, dang, this is heavy. Yeah, Andy's got some weight to him. Like, this is some real wood for hard play. Derek the Bill Paxton Paxman the Diesel. This is another childhood item of mine. I was really fond of Derek. He was an interesting character, I wish he appeared more. Also, on sub Wooden Railway Derricks, you could take out the back part and like look at his motor. Well, apparently I had one of the ones that didn't do that, but they didn't explicitly advertise that, even though in all the catalogs you could see that it opens up. So, I tried to open that up. As you can see, it kinda left a mark or two. Ah well, the rest of him is mostly fine though. Here's Big Iron Airy in his Big Iron glory. I like the models they gave these two. Oh, and here's the other one, Big Iron Bert with the beard. He always stood out to me because he was the one train I had that had stubble. I love how the TV series introduced characters with stubble before they introduced character with full-on facial hair. Such a funny thing. Oh, and we can't forget Airy and Bert's third brother, Dylan. Oh my god, what happened? Here's a friendly face, Diesel 10. I have a kinda complicated story with Diesel 10. I don't really remember how I got him. I know for a fact I had a cousin who used to have Diesel 10, and I'd only see him a couple times a year, and he would bring Diesel 10 with him. But I don't remember him ever, like, formally giving me Diesel 10. But I'm pretty sure this was his. But I also don't know. I feel like maybe I also got Diesel 10, like, on my own. I don't know. I could just ask him. He'd definitely remember because he was older than me. But, I don't wanna. Splatter. I always loved Splatter and Dodge. I don't really remember if I actually had them, though. I'm pretty sure I did. Like, at least one of them. But probably both, right? I feel like I remember it, but I don't. Man, I don't know. Here's another Splatter. I actually got this one before the last one, but neither of these are childhood Splatters. I don't know if I had a childhood Splatter. Did I? I don't know. Here's Dodge. Again, this isn't a childhood Dodge. I remember getting this a few years ago. But I still don't, like, No, I feel like I had dodge, like over splatter. Like if I had one of them, I definitely had dodge. Or maybe I didn't. Who knows? Here's one I know for a fact I didn't have as a kid. Here's Lady. This is the one re-released around Calling All Engines time. I kinda wish I had the older one though. I kinda like the longer funnel. This one's alright though. She does have a huge crack in her cab though. I bought it like that. I don't know why I decided to buy it like that. I mean, it was a nice quality, but that crack is kinda distracting. How'd that even happen? I mean, it's like, this is perfect otherwise. How did it have just like a huge crack down the middle? That's weird. Ahoy, mateys, here's Salty. I got this via the Pirates Cove playset. Remember when I mentioned that back when I talked about Thomas? Yeah, I can tell you for a fact this is from that. And I'm gonna be real with you, I do not like Thomas Wooden Railway Salty. His cab is just way too small. I feel like they should have just made it the length of like the whole running board to capture that he has a big cab. But yeah, he just looks so skinny. And here's Celebration Salty. It's weirdly based on an episode where Salty is just covered in oil and then bumps into party supplies, not one where like Salty celebrates something. It's a fun little variant. It comes with this car, which is weirdly unpainted on the ends. I don't know, it looks like a Thomas Wood item. Wonder if this is where Mattel got that brilliant idea from. Here's Harvey. He looks kinda stupid. I don't care. He's a nice model. He's alright. It's Harvey. Everybody loves Harvey. There's no one quite like Emily. Ooh, don't stare at me with those eyes. Feel bad for Emily. I think she kind of always got the short end of the stick as a main character with the merchandise. A lot of stuff made her too short, and it was kind of hard to capture her model era face. It's such a shame they chose an engine with such a cool basis, and then none of the merch could capture that look right. And here's Talking Emily, that probably said iconic Emily catchphrases like, "Hey guys, it's me, Emily."
Hey everybody, here comes Fergus! Hooray!
Yeah, that's Fergus, yeah. Who doesn't love good old Fergus? He's such a cool little freak and I hate him. But yeah, everyone loves Fergus, and my Fergus has a broken flywheel if you see it right there. Oh well, that's a shame. He still works, kinda. But hey, look, it's kind of like the real-life show prop, so, you know, it's cool. It's a Railway Series reference or whatever. I don't freaking know.
Arthur. Oh, Arthur.
This might be one of my favorite wooden railway models, like, ever. I'm enamored with this thing. Arthur has one of the best bases in the entire series. He just looks so freaking awesome. But honestly, personality-wise, I'm not really a fan of Arthur. I don't think he's a bad character. I just don't really find his personality all that interesting to write for. I just find him a little basic. I still love everything else about him though. Murdoch. Wooden Railway really understood that Murdoch was supposed to be like the big, mighty engine, because Murdoch looks huge, even though he's still like the same size as like Gordon. They made his boiler extra wide, and they gave him that Arthur chassis. He's a cool one.
Spencer! Hello, Sodor!
Spencer's kind of interesting. I realized here that he kind of looks more like an A4 than he does in the TV series. I don't mind this Spencer that much, but I do kind of wish I had the CGI version. I kind of prefer how more silver it is. However, I love his original face so much more, so I'm conflicted. Here's Shy Yellow Molly, and I'm missing her tender. I'd like to get it one day, but I just don't really have a drive to get it. There's plenty online, but like none for like an extremely good price. Like the most I want to pay is like $5 maximum. If I ever get one, I wouldn't complain. In fact, I'd appreciate it, but I'm really not looking. Here's my childhood Molly. She's missing her tender and her face. Yeah, I took that off when I was in my destructive phase, and I don't even know what custom I ended up using that for. Oh well, I think I got her at a children's museum. That's cool. So, I actually just recently came into possession of a knockoff Molly tender, except the color is off and the magnets don't go the right way, so still useless. Here's Neville, and man, they really knocked it out of the park with these hit-era newbies. I mean, they were straight up made for this purpose, so I'm glad they went all out for them. This is an excellent model, it really gets Neville. He's probably the most nothing of all the hit-era newbies, but I think he just might be the best designed one. Here is the legend himself, Dennis. I really like all the detail on his sides. He's a solid model. though definitely a basic one. I forget I have him most of the time. But you know who's going to be in the later part of this video? Well, not Dennis's brother Norman, because here's what my Norman looked like the last time I had him. Yeah, I kind of left him outside. Here is Rosie. She is pink. She also has some like great big bug eyes. It's weird. I feel like most of the faces at the time really like hit it out of the park, so Rosie's kind of odd. They kind of messed her up. Doesn't look great. I don't know, I kind of like this one. And here's the Mattel Rosie. This is probably the objectively superior model. And that's all I gotta say about this. Okay, move on. Here's the only Thomas Wood item in this entire video. I originally got it because it was a red Rosie. Then I remembered that Thomas Wood sucks, so I eventually just painted it into a generic black tank engine. Wowee, it's Whiffy Whiff. I've never really been a fan of his wooden railway model. I feel like it's too long. I feel like they should have gave him like his own special like chassis that's kind of like a bit longer, but like not that much longer than the standard one, but I don't know, that might be asking for too much. Whiff has glasses. Haha, he's so silly. Haha. Billy, yeah, he's alright. I mean, Billy was someone who was very clearly made for simplistic toys, so they did him pretty well. Yeah. I kind of want to throw this toy train into space. I don't know why. Stanley. He's, kind of odd looking. I don't know, they made him too much of a saddle tank. It doesn't really look like him in the middle there. His face is also kind of weird, but I think Stanley just naturally has a weird face. Near the very end of Wooden Railway, Mattel put out this, an updated Stanley, even though he hadn't been relevant for quite a while. And I'm so glad they made this. This is such a better Stanley than the original. It captures his shape so much better. The only thing I'm iffy on is the face. It looks a little odd, but so did all the other faces in 2017. The next item in my collection, I don't have any of my own footage for, because I just recently bought it, and I haven't even been given a shipping number yet. It's Flora, and her coach too. I'm still awaiting them to be shipped to me. I don't know if they'll come by the time I'm done with this video. I mean, I'm only at like the halfway point right now, so maybe they'll come right now. Man, I really hope they come, and that way it's like a funny joke, like, oh, they came, and I record this audio. But, if you're hearing this, it means they didn't come. Before we get into the CGI series characters, let's look at some Railway series exclusive characters. Here's the Big City Engine. And man, I love his face. And I love this whole model too. I love just how big it feels with those big driving wheels. For a while, this was my white whale. I couldn't find this for a good price anywhere. I actually got the tender and the engine separately, and like a year apart from each other. Here's Coldy. He's an interesting one, to say the least. And that face is, that's, ooh. The story is that he's based on artwork from the magazine stories, which, yeah, I can totally see that with the lack of the sloped boiler. I think Ertl did the same thing, because these two models look very similar, at least with the face. Here's another Coldy I own, and his coach Catherine, who is actually done completely wrong in Wooden Railway. They based her on the trucks rather than Catherine herself. It's very apparent when you look how she was sold. I'm guessing somebody just looked at the wrong illustration. And honestly, it's kind of a cool novelty item. You really couldn't make this mistake today. And here's what I think is the superior Coldy. This one just looks so much more like him. I love all the detail on the side. And that face, it's a little bit better. You know what sucks though? My Coldy's a factory error, and it's not even a fun factory error. The middle wheel sits a little bit lower than the other two, so he kinda waddles. And it sucks, cause I really like him. So I'm gonna give Rolling Stock its own section, but I put Catherine here because she fits with the Coldy Fell. But then I realized I should probably put this thing here, shouldn't I? This is the Apple Orchard car. This came with Coldy in the Coldy and the Apple Orchard Cars value pack, which was one of the only ways to get the 2005 Coldy. So technically this is Coldy Fell Rolling Stock. I mean, it's purple, I guess.
No!
I love this guy. He looks so freaking funny, and he's so basic looking. You can just tell he's from like the 1800s. I've always wondered, what if Mattel did Neil in like 2014 or 2015? Like, how would they have done him? How would they have changed him? One of creator Roy Wilson's favorites, the Sodor Railway Repair. Or you might know him as the Ballast Spreader, or the Sodor Chain Load Undercut. What? So this guy appeared in one single Railway Series illustration. It's crazy that they made this toy, because if they didn't, I think this guy would just be a total cryptid. This is an awesome item, and I can see why he was one of Roy Wilson's favorites. I only got this early this year though, and I kinda overpaid. Oh well. You know who I didn't overpay for, and who else was Roy Wilson's favorite, and who doesn't really fit on this turntable rig I have going? That's right, the Flying Scotsman himself. This is just one of the wooden railway items of all time. Love it or hate it, you gotta admit that. The main criticism I see going around is that it doesn't really look anything like his brother Gordon. Which, yeah, I completely get, it's kinda odd. But the reason why is because this toy is more so based on the real-life Flying Scotsman. The large wheels they gave him are directly based on the real-life engine, and TV series Gordon really only vaguely looks like his real-life brothers. So this item has a kind of interesting history, as it's really the only one based on a real engine. I do think they could have done him a little bit better though. I'm really not a fan of the small boiler. I wish they'd done him similar to how they did the big city engine later in the future. And here's the 2013 Flying Scotsman's tender. Just the tender. I did used to have the rest of the engine. I got it at a day out with Thomas in 2014. But, yeah, that's gone. Kids, always pick up your rooms, okay? Hello everybody, here's Diesel D199. For a Railway Series guy, this guy got a ton of releases, it's kinda strange. But I think it's because he resembles a very stereotypical blue British diesel. I mean, he's even got the British Rail logo on him. I bet you if there were like a red F unit in the Railway series, that thing would also get a wooden railway toy every couple years. And here's the 2013 version. I also got this at Day Out with Thomas in 2014, along with my Flying Scotsman who is no longer with us. Now to some CGI characters. Here's my hero. Hero! Such a lovely engine. I feel like if you wanted to, you could probably come up with a pretty good argument for why Hero's the best original TV series character. Here's Lost and Found Hero. He's so sad looking. I just want to find him and, like, help him. I don't have his tender, unfortunately.
Charlie, what does it mean? Charlie, you were my everything.
Yeah, here's my Charlie. He's a bit beat up because he's a Mattel item. But, yeah. Here's Bash with the blue boiler. For as the logging locos are, they got some pretty neat toys. I love the little spinning gear they put on the back of these. And here's Dash, whose boiler is not blue, it's orange. He's pretty much the same as Bash, but he's, you know, different colors here. Yeah. That's right, it's Ferdinand. This is such a cool toy. I really like the Logging Locos toys. I'm glad they gave him like his pistons. It's a cool one. I like it, you know, even though it's Ferdinand, it's a good one, you know? It's great. Well then, here's Den. He's a solid one. As a character, I think Den is like the most middle-of-the-road Thomas character. He's not overrated or underrated. He just kind of exists, and like he never like stopped appearing. He was never a big player. He's odd. And here's Den's buddy Dart. Dart is a bit less solid than Den. I really wish they gave him like a lady-sized chassis, because Dart is really small in the show, and giving him like the normal-sized one makes him look just too long. Ah well, his face looks kinda stupid. Paxton, who's not a Pax man, but he's Paxton the Diesel. He's green. Here's, who is this? Oh yeah, it's Sydney. This is the original version that came out around the time of Day of the Diesels. Infamously, Mattel never made a default Sydney, but they made 2 variants. So finding this can be a little tough, but not impossible. Hey, it's scrunching time! Here's Scruff the Scruncher. He's a pretty cool guy, and his wooden railway toy is pretty cool. Awesome! What a shock! It's Stafford! I think about Stafford probably a lot more than the average Thomas fan does. I don't know why. I still have the box for this one. It's got an ad for the Go-Go Thomas DVD. That's just so freaking cool. Here's Steven Comes to Sodor, or also known as Fix Me Up Steven on his chassis. I think it's really cool they made a variant of Steven when he first came to the island. All messed up and... What the heck? What was that? Okay. You know, Thomas would have really fared well in this current era we're in, where it feels like every toy line has, like, variants going on. Here's regular Steven. You know, Steven's a pretty clever wooden railway toy. I like how they made him one single unit, with, like, the tender being on, like, one single axle. I don't know, it just kind of works. Connor! I love the streamlined Hudsons. I'm so glad this character exists, even if he's, you know, a stupid color and they kind of eliminated, like, the most defining feature of that train by putting his face right there. And also it doesn't make sense how it's in, like, England. But you know what? I don't care. I'm really upset I don't have his buddy Caitlin. But she is so hard to find in good quality and for a good price. Someone help me. Here's Porter at the Border. You know, I got a fondness for this character, but I can't say any more, or else I'd spoil our next story. Or rather, a story later down the line, maybe, if I get to that. I do wish instead of the black negative space, they had, like, actually indented that little area. Other than that, though, he's a solid wooden railway model. Oh me! Oh my! Who's this orange engine? Oh my god, it's Hank, the DEA engine. Huh, that's cool. Here's Timothy, the little oil burner. I always see a lot of people try to change Timothy's basis, but I don't know, I like the kind of engine he is. Makes for a unique toy, and I like it. And it's my opinion. I like it, okay? I also like how he has, like, little red curtains. That's cool. Here's Marion. I am not a big fan of Wooden Railway Marion. There's nothing really wrong with her, except for one big glaring issue. Her steam shovel is just way too big. It blocks her whole face. And it's not even like an open steam shovel you can lift dirt up with. Such a disappointing model. Marion was such a big character for so long, but I feel like a lot of her toys just completely missed the mark. Here's Gator. He's an alright model, I guess. Biggest thing I'm not a fan of is how the front is plastic. It kind of creates a discoloration. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, did they really need to make that all plastic? I feel like that so could have easily been wood. Ah well. This is when things started to go downhill. Here's Samson. He's a weird little guy. Like Dart, I really wish they had made him on a smaller chassis, because I feel like he's a much smaller character. The show itself never acknowledged that Samson was a small character, so I guess I shouldn't expect the toys to. Coincidentally, here's a character who also is named Sam, and who also coincidentally happens to be the longest Wooden Railway character. Kinda. So get this, I found Sam and the whole Great Bell set for just $10 on Marketplace. Hell of a find. Especially when you remember that this set used to cost $225. Sam himself is alright. I'm not a fan of the big gap they left on him. I get it's to make him longer, but I wish instead of just using the 2 regular bogies, they used like the 6-wheel bogie. You know, the Arthur chassis. It's not like it wasn't active at the time. Connor and Caitlin were still readily available characters. You wouldn't have had to made Sam any longer either. Though they also should have given him a 6-wheeled tender. I mean, come on, this character has 20 wheels. More wheels, all the wheels, yeah, all the wheels, come on. And we have Ryan, who is a Purple Thomas. He's a pretty infamous item in Wooden Railway. I feel like he was the beginning of the end. Ryan was a complicated character to make, though. I feel like he either had to be too long or too short, but making him a Thomas reskin was not the way to go at all. They had Oliver active at the time, and I would have much rather preferred them make an Oliver reskin. I mean, it's still not perfect, but at least it's a little bit closer to Ryan. And you know, it'd be a little more discreet than the main freaking character. Ryan's such a fan favorite, so it's a big shame he didn't get a proper Wooden Railway. Okay, I'm sorta going out of order here, but here's Mike. the old version of Mike. And I really like this guy. And even though he's like the exact same length as someone like James, he just kind of looks shorter, like they made him shorter, and it kind of works. I don't know how. And I love his face. It just looks so like sly. And here's 2015 Mike, who I also think is just a really great item. I honestly can't really decide between the two. I love the extra details they put onto this Mike. I still like the length of the other one. I really don't know which one I like more. It really changes. I unfortunately do not have Bert, but I do have another Mike, who I keep sealed in box. I somehow wound up with two, but I'm fine with that. Okay, this one is definitely out of order, but frankly, I want all the Arsdale engines together. So here's Frank. I'm so glad they made Frank so that way Mike could have a friend for all the years prior to 2015. Fun fact, his top half is just a reskinned Mavis. Once you see it, you can't really unsee it. But also, it's not a big deal. And I also love his weird lamp forehead. That's just awesome. Back to the standard gauge, here's Philip. He's an interesting character. He used to be a big player for like seasons 19 to like kinda 22. And then he like quickly faded away. I genuinely wonder if we'll ever see him again. Godspeed, Philip. My last standard gauge engine? Racing Vinny. And Racing Vinny is his full name because that's what they put on the box for some reason. This dude wasn't even a part of the race scene in that movie. I got this in 2016, I believe before the Great Race had even officially come out. I was kind of fascinated by his basis at the time. I feel like this guy had major hype up during 2016, and then he only had like 2 minutes of screen time in the movie. Too bad Thomas never visited Canada in the Big World era. Let's not forget the narrow gauge, where small and strong is all the rage. Here's my childhood Skarloey. And man, he is a real survivor, cause I've had this thing like literally forever. It was most likely my brother's before I was even born. The face is pretty messed up, but he's in pretty good shape. Here's a not as messed up face Skarloey that I got in a lot. It's alright. Here's an early 2000s Skarloey. It's pretty much the same model with a different face and smoke box, and man, I do not like that face at all. It looks uncanny. And here's one of my newest arrivals, a Mattel Skarloey. I've been in the process of updating some of my narrow gauge engines. He was actually gifted to me by my foreman. That's cool. Here's Rheneas, or Renius. I don't know what to call him anymore. I bought him about 8 years ago now. He's a little beat up, but don't worry, I've upgraded. Here's a Mattel Rheneas. I'm glad he's actually orange. And here's another one. So I also recently ended up with this because he came with my Skarloey. I might make a custom out of this one day. Or, I don't know, sell it. Here's a Sir Handel. He's actually the Sir Handel from the Ice Cream Factory set, hence the painted eyes and mouth. And I've said it before, but I am not a fan of the old style Sir Handel. He's missing his coal bunkers like he has in the TV series, and his boiler is just way too thin. So I, of course, upgraded him to the 2008 version. This just looks so much more like Sir Handel. What I love the most, though, is the face. It looks better than his large-scale prop faces. Like, I can imagine George Carlin's voice coming out of this. And here's Peter Sam, who I've never had to upgrade because this is my childhood Peter Sam. He's a little worn in some areas, but it's not too bad, so I'm not in any rush to get a better looking one. And not to mention that the 2008 and 2012 Peter Sams are a little bit harder to find. Alright, I got 3 of the same Rusties, so let's get through these. Here's this first Rusty. I'm pretty sure it's the oldest one because it's a darker orange. Fun fact, this Rusty has been held by Rob Wiedoff, the voice actor for John Marston in the Red Dead Redemption games. Why? I don't know, why not? Here's my pristine Rusty, the best looking one I got. And to say something about the model itself, it's always bothered me how the face is so low. I feel like they just need to, raise it up just a little bit. And here's my third Rusty. It looks like somebody chewed on it. Yummers. Here is my childhood Duke. I played with him a lot as a kid. He was, definitely one of my favorites. He was the sole tender engine on the narrow gauge railway. I always thought that was really cool. He's another one who was always based at my grandparents' house for the early part of my childhood. which is really fitting given that he's the grandpa character. Here's the 2009 Duke. I'm betting by the lighter colors and face choice that he was based on the 2004 reference photos. The reason why this got made so late in the game is that it was a tie-in with the DVD re-release of Rusty to the Rescue, which features the 2 Duke episodes. I'm so glad this happened so we could get an updated Duke. This also led to another character, Smudger. This is another childhood item of mine. I'm so glad it stayed together. What's kind of funny is that in the TV series, Smudger was just a Rheneas repaint. And at the time in Wooden Railway, Rheneas looked like this, which was not great. I think a lot of fans would have preferred a modern Rheneas with a skinnier boiler, and that never came to fruition. So it's kind of funny that Smudger got this 5-star treatment. Like Duke, I am so glad this got made. Smudger has a grand total of 2 toys. Imagine if he only had 1. Here's probably the strangest anomaly of a character in Wooden Railway. In the TV series, Bertram is a Duke repaint, but they made him a tank engine. Now Bertram was originally planned to be a tank engine in the series, but other than one single reference photo, there's nothing out there that officially depicts him as one. And he came out in 2000, when the episode had already been out. So why did they make him a tank engine? Well, the theory is they just based the toy on what little promotional photos they had, and none of them ever really showed Bertram's tender. This is also why there's a random L on his boiler. It's the shadow of the nameplate. I know a lot of you already kind of know this information, but it's just such an interesting part of Thomas merch history. A lot of these toys, you can pretty much cite how everything came to be, but like Bertram is just their F it we ball model. They gave him a red roof and red domes, just cause why not? It's Bertram. I also so want to know the story behind the 2016 Bertram. It's like they wanted to do like an ideal Bertram, but they didn't add the bunker and they didn't make the saddle tank go all the way down. I so wish I got this in 2016. Now it's like uber expensive, and I just made a video acknowledging it, so it's probably going up even more. Unless none of you watched this video. Alright, well, I used to have Fearless Freddy, but I left him outside and he disintegrated, so I got Ivo Hugh instead. I really love his Clive Spong face he has, that's just awesome. I also love that there's a narrow gauge engine in Wooden Railway who has the Railway Series livery. That's like a cool little thing. Alright, okay, we gotta talk about this face. It's so clearly Clive Spong inspired, and he looks just drunk out of his mind. It's so cool. Here's Mighty Mac, one of the only characters with magnets that can go both ways. Mighty Mac's a cool character. I remember seeing this in most of the catalogs I had as a kid. It was never one I was like super after, but anytime I saw it, I was like, man, I wish I had that. But hey, now I do. So, all worked out. Ah, a ghost. Nah, just kidding, it's just Proteus. But no, he's dead. This isn't my childhood Proteus, but I did have one as a kid, and he was a lot of fun. I really liked the lamp. I remember I'd go in dark rooms and then I'd like turn it on to see if it could illuminate a room, but it couldn't. Here's Victor, who just looks like stupid bad. This is the Mattel version, and it's like the line doesn't line up, and it's like, what the hell happened here? I really wish I had the older version. I used to have that when I was a kid, but I lost it to time. I know I'm like an hour into this, but I'm gonna start grading these. This one's a D. A D minus even. Okay, I'm not gonna grade anymore. Aw look, it's little Luke. He pushes engines into the sea. Alright, but 2 real big problems with this model. One is the plastic in the middle there. It's very discolored and doesn't fit in. 2 is that this just should have been shorter, like lady chassis sized. He's just a little too long, and Luke is such a small character. Has anyone looked at Luke's real life basis? That thing looks so dainty. Like, I think I could just like kick that and it'd fall over. But also, I could like beat up Gordon. Like, I'm really strong. And that's the last of my engines. Oh, but we have so much rolling stock to get through. Starting with coaches, and also sticking to the narrow gauge, here's Ada. It's cool they made these obscure characters, but honestly, I kind of prefer the open-air coach that Mattel would do in their tenure. These 3 are just a little bit big and bulky. I feel like they could look smaller, because they're very, very small characters. And here's Mabel. I don't own Jane, I only have these 2. Pretty sure I found them in a flea market, during one of my luckiest flea market finds ever. I have really bad luck with flea markets. Here's Annie and Clarabelle. I got these two with my oldest Thomas in a lot. I never had both of these as a kid, but I did have a single Clarabelle. So I had no Annie to go with her when I was a kid, but I always had this. At a certain point, I scratched out the name and kinda made it my own OC. I believe the name is Madeline. That's a cool name for a coach, I guess. And here's 2004 Annie and Clarabelle. These are probably my favorites as they have the different faces and they have the upgraded details. For some reason, all the future Annie and Clarabelles made them have the same face. And I always love the gimmick where Annie's always surprised and Clarabelle is happily smiling. Why'd they get so lazy, man? And here's 2011 Annie and Clarabelle. They're literally perfectly fine models, but they gave them the exact same face. That kinda sucks. This is actually how I got my first Annie though, so that's cool. Here's some red branch line coaches, made out of a Mattel era Annie and Clarabelle. And these are made of paper, and I made them like 7 years ago now, so they've seen better days.
What was the name of Toby's coach?
So with the end of her career, there was only one way to get a Wooden Railway Henrietta. And that's right, it was via the 5-car gift pack. Kinda, cause there were also like other ways to get her, but this was the most prominent one. God, it's kinda funny how the TV series didn't give her a face. The Knapford Express coach. Just something they completely made up. This is mine from childhood. I'm glad I had at least one express coach. And here's 4 express coaches. I've acquired these over the years, and they weren't exactly cheap. And I've always wondered, why'd they go with red? Like, the green ones are so much more common in the show. Ah well. This is also the only item I have a character card for. Cool. And here's Old Slow Coach. This isn't my childhood model, but I did have one as a kid, and I begrudgingly used it as an express coach since I only had the one. She was an interesting character to me. I always thought it was weird that she never came back outside of Season 5. She could have been fun. Here's 2 Sodor mail coaches. Glad I ended up with 2 of these, because you need 2 to make the mail train. And here's the legend himself, S.C. Ruffy. One of my favorite characters in the whole world and all of fiction ever. When I was a kid, I had the 2006 version with the removable ballast, but I unfortunately lost that to time. And this here was also one of my very early eBay purchases. So early that I don't even really remember if I bought it or like somebody bought it for me, but I know it came from eBay. This is definitely my favorite Scruffy though. I just love that devilish face. Sure, here's another one. I got him in a lot that contained the 1997 Roundhouse set, so he likely originates from there. Cool! Here's a Wooden Railway legend, Rickety, the Rickety Blue Truck. I made a whole short about him this year, but TLDR, Rickety is a Wooden Railway OC, named for the ricketing motion he does on his chassis. It's kinda up in the air if he's supposed to be a real character or not, cause Wooden Railway like to reuse Rickety, and they'd give him multiple purposes, such as Gold Mine Rickety from the 2006 Gold Mine Mountain set. Like Flora, I just bought him, and I'm waiting for him to come. Maybe he'll come right now. Okay, he didn't come. Nope. Yeah, he didn't make it in time. Yeah. Here's Chocolate Rickety from the Sodor Cookie Factory Cargo Pack. Another one of my favorite items as a kid, because it just came with a bunch of loadable cargo. And this is mine from childhood. At one point, I painted the chocolate gray to just be generic rocks, because I eventually got tired of the cookie theme. But at some point, I changed it back to brown. And here's the only other surviving part of that cargo pack from my childhood, the Sodor Sugar Car. I actually reassembled this for Boko's Bind. For so many years, I just used the chassis on a generic cargo car. But you know, I've learned to love these gimmicks over time, so I live with them. Plus, it's a more interesting cargo piece. And here's the Giggling Troublesome Trucks. This was a great value pack to get 2 troublesome trucks to add to your layouts. And mine still works, though it sounds a bit old. And here's another non-giggling troublesome truck from that 2-pack. Only this one is a for display only item. I found this at a train show about 3 years ago now, and I only noticed that display label when I got home. And here's my giggling troublesome truck from when I was a kid. He's been gutted and I ripped off the top. I don't know why. Guess I was just 12 years old. And here's the 2013 remake. I'm glad Mattel actually made these. Instead of giggling, they dropped some troublesome truck harassment lines. Although I don't have the batteries in to prevent corrosion. Here's Fred Pelhay, another Railway Series character. I'm so shocked they made him. Although I guess he's more Railway Series inspired because they got his name wrong. It's Fred Pelham, not Hay. I made a whole short about that. You can watch that. And here's another one. This one has his name on the bottom, and the last one didn't. So that's how I differentiate those two. Oops, I have a third one. So how do I tell this apart? Well, it's on a musical caboose chassis. Why? Well, for some reason, when I was a young teenager, I really wanted an HO scale Fred Pelhay. So I cut his wheels off and put him on some Bachmann wheels. I eventually came to my senses and realized he did not fit in at all, and I converted him back into a wooden railway item. The musical caboose chassis actually is a bit shorter than the regular wooden railway chassis, so Fred sits a bit lower than the rest. Sticking with coal trucks, here's a generic Sodor Coal Company truck with a custom face on it. This came with my Mattel Rheneas on eBay, and that face definitely looks like it was drawn on by a Thomas fan. So if you made this, hello, I own it now. And another coal truck, Hector the Not So Horrid. This is one I would have killed for as a child. I really wanted Hector. Just a big piece of rolling stock is so cool. He's so tall, too. He's like really imposing. Although that face is a bit odd looking. I wish they gave an angry one. Here's a bubblesome truck. The least we say about Mr. Bubbles, the better. Let's just move on. Here's Bertram's iconic scrap cars. I'm unfortunately missing a second load, though. A small little thing I like is that they're labeled 3 and 4, as if to imply there's like multiple of these you can get. It's like subtle world building without actually having to build the world. Here's Rheneas's iconic Rock Crusher cars. I think the fandom has like an opinion on these, but honestly, I got like nothing at all. I kind of like the texture they gave it on the sides. That's interesting. And here's Rusty's iconic cement mixers, which I have 2 of for some reason. These roll kind of weird with that little like traction play feature they got. Not really a fan of these. Here's the green Sodor China clay car. I wish I had the red one. That'd be cool. Here's the Sodor dairy cars, which I gave the van a Bachmann Troublesome Truck number 2 face. These items make milk. Here's the blasting cap car and the bottom of the foghorn car. I used to have these as a kid, but these are 2 that I bought in a lot. The top came missing. I didn't do that. It's a rare occasion where that wasn't me, okay? Here's the Sodor Zoo cars. These are 2 I just don't really use because it's kind of gimmicky. I don't really care for the whole like zoo animal park aesthetic that they really love. Oh well, it's cool. The hippo, like, its mouth opens. That's fun. Oh my word, it's another zoo car. This one doesn't make lion sound effects. That's, yeah, you know. Here's the classic circus train. I don't really have much use for it in my little funny little Thomas videos that I make, but, you know, it's a classic item. I can't deny that. It's got like a cute little classic charm to it. Here's the not as classic, but still the same concept, lion car that was also like a circus train. Wait, dumbass, that's a tiger, not a lion, you freaking idiot. Here's the blue and yellow box car from my childhood. And the yellow one is in Apoyos Hermanos, guys, because yellow is the color of Gus Fring. These are very American, looking like and being called box cars, but I don't know, I just pretend they're vans, it doesn't matter. None of this really matters at all. I also have 2 more blue ones. I don't know how I haven't gotten a second yellow one over all these years, but whatever. Here's the birthday bomb car. This interestingly has no label on the bottom, even though this is like post 2003. This is because it originally came with like a sticker sheet where you can like name it yourself. But I didn't get this as a kid, so this just has no name. Let's name it Homer, after the Simpson. I don't care, whatever. The Fossil Car. This is the blue version, only released in the Stepney Value Pack and some like DVD releases. Thomas has had a lot of dinosaur-related adventures throughout its history. This item predates it, but I kind of wonder how big of a threat was Dinosaur Train to Thomas, because they did a lot of dinosaur stuff after that too. I have 2 baggage cars, the red ones. These were put in like oval starter sets. These are such simple items, and also something you don't really see in the show. These are cool. I like them. The recycling cars. I love how they just made up a guy for this. He has such a cute little face. I love him. I just want to hold him and squeeze him. I used to have these as a kid, but these are ones I bought a couple years ago. If we did have my childhood one, you'd probably see that I chewed the hell out of the rubber tires. But they were so delicious. Here's one of the most persistent wooden railway items, the aquarium cars, the 2004 version. Although I am missing the squid car, so I have 2 sharks. I believe the one that's clear is the one from my childhood. I can tell by the fact I tried to rip it open. I really wanted to get the water out of there and touch it. 2 Sodor fuel tankers. The more damaged one is of course the one from my childhood. As I said before, I really love this item because I love doing stories about fires, specifically from tankers. Milk, milk, and another milk. These are milk tankers. I have 3. A log car. I don't know, I'm not really a big fan of the log car. It doesn't really look like anything from the show. I'd rather they have made a regular flatbed. Oh look, I own 2. This one has a Bachmann salt wagon face. Makes them look kind of funny. Here's a barrel car with loadable barrels. This is interesting because it has a unique longer chassis. Wonder why they never used this again. Weird. You know, Ryan could have used that. Here's my cargo cars and some cargo. I've always thought these were interesting because they kind of resemble container trains, which is something that's so common in the world now, but has just never been seen in Thomas. I also have that Yoplait Yumpsters cargo. That's such an interesting piece because it's a real-world product in Thomas toy form. I'm glad those aren't common, but it's cool they made one. Here's something I finally put together, the 70th anniversary cargo and car from the Sam and the Great Bell playset. Now I've had the cargo piece for a while now, but like I said, I just got the set, and now I can finally put it in its proper cargo car. I like that they made this for a set about a museum. It's like they're gonna build a little Railway Series exhibit in there. That's cool, that's a cool little lore thing. Rocky! I love how long they made Rocky. He's such a cool little item. Though I do wish they had put like a built-in magnet in the front flatbed, so that way you could have a place for his hook to like stay attached to. Otherwise, he's a really great item. The fire train. Okay. Yeah, sure, whatever. It's tasteful enough. It looks like a piece of machinery you'd see. The ice delivery cars. Such a unique thing they just made up. With a unique design, too. It's like the breakdown crane, but it looks more like industrial. It's kind of cool, I guess. I just never heard of the Sodor ice delivery service. The breakdown train. With a poster for a lawyer who's channeling Sir Topham Hatt. I really need to get a second one of these, so that way I can have a complete train. The Chinese Dragon. This is an item I've had for basically as long as I can remember. I definitely prefer this to the older version. I don't like that thing. It's the jet engine. I just did a whole video all about Thomas and the jet engine. And I talk about this item in that. Watch that. And we can't forget Booster. Such an interesting item. I also talk about this in the jet engine video. Watch that. Let's wrap up the rolling stock with the things that go on the end of trains. The brake vans, or cabooses for some of these. So we're starting off with the Sodor line caboose. One of the most infamous results of this Thomas toy line being made by a bunch of Americans. It's such a classic item though, you can't really hate it. And they made a bunch of these, so here's 2 more. And hey, Mattel got in on it too, except they renamed it to the Sodor Mainline Caboose. Mattel really like to be specific. Sometimes. Ah, the Haunted Caboose. Ah, I'm scared. I like that it's a Halloween-themed caboose. That's fun. It's like a little decoration. You can put it up on display in October. You can show your kids, and they'll really think you're cool. Oh, look, and there's a Christmas one, too, so you can celebrate Christmas with this little caboose. You can read the little red caboose, but it's Christmas now. Yeah, that's a pretty cool item. I like having this out every Christmas. I found it in with the 2 Thomases I had, and I don't know why I'm talking really fast on this one. I did Christmas. Here's the most evil Thomas Wooden Railway character of all time, the spiteful brake fan. Oh my god, he looks just freaking evil. I'm scared. I really like how they made this, and it's very clearly based on the Railway series, and not really how he looks in the TV series. It's fun, I kind of like it. Dare I say this look is better for the spiteful brake fan? I don't know, I kind of prefer it. Here's a custom my lazy ass didn't make. This is Bradford the Brake Van. This is a 3D print by Quality Trains and More. I always wanted Bradford the Brake Van. It's super disappointing they never made one. Especially since he's like a boxy character, like that would have been so easy. Oh well, this lives up I guess. Alright, let's end the rail characters on a high note. Toad the Brake Van. This is seriously such a good wooden railway model. He has a working brake, and the detail is just so nice, and I seriously love his little face. Such a solid item, and I really mean it, he's one of my favorites. And that's everyone who goes on rails. But don't you worry, we got a bunch of a-holes that go on the road. Starting off with that stupid red bus. He's a weird looking fella, and there's a dude smoking inside of him. That's scary. Here's the updated version with nobody inside of him. I feel like everyone left cause it probably smelled like pipe tobacco in there. Gross. And here's a birdie that just looks kinda gross. But the reason is that he's a for display only birdie, meaning he was likely on a play table. And yeah, that explains that. Kinda. Here's Terrence the Tractor, the 2002 version. When I was a kid, I used to have the old one that just had like orange train wheels, and the caterpillar tracks I had were long gone. The caterpillars on this one are also snapped, just hidden on the inside. As you can see, they're very deteriorated. I don't really prefer to use this Terrence. He's also a little too tall for my liking. Trevor the Traction Engine. He's alright. I think for Wooden Railway, there was always going to be kind of like a caveat with making Trevor. Like, he's not going to look perfect. He doesn't really fit in. He's fine, though. I don't have much to say about him. Oh, good God, I have 2 more. The one with the chipped funnel in the back is the one from my childhood. So, that's cool. Oh my God, it's Harold the Flopper Chopper. Can I have your autograph, Harold?
No.
Okay, cool. Here's the original Harold. This item ran for a real long time before they updated him with a CGI face. He's very simplistic, but he's kinda cool, kinda cute, you know? Oh my golly, I have another one. Oh, but wait, it's a for display only one. That's pretty cool. Here's the 2011 Harold. I do prefer this one because he has a more accurate shape, but his face kinda looks like if like an egg was a guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's very egg. Bulgy the Bus. He's a fun little angry guy. He's just so angry. I really like him. I like the character Bulgy. I wish he did more in the show. Though I wish they stuck with the vegetable bus thing. That was kind of fun. I wanted to see where that was gonna go. And I wanted more green Bulgy toys. Here's another non-rail character that I wish appeared more in the show. George the Steamroller. I really wish Trevor got this level of treatment. I don't know how you do it, but it'd be cool. George is solid, but his face is just oh so big and oh so happy. Doesn't really fit the character. And here's the car that George told to commit suicide. Caroline, who is the strangest looking character. I think she's way too big. but she had to fit the system, didn't she? Bulstrode. He is without a doubt the top tier wooden railway item to use as a bludgeon. And yep, this is a childhood item of mine. I loved putting this thing in the water. A lot. And I tried repainting it. It looks very, yeah. I've never been in a rush to get a new Bulstrode though. I feel like the very messy look kind of fits the character. I got him with the Lighthouse Bridge. This destination was a fun one with the drawbridge. It was on most of my layouts as a kid, and I used it to crash trucks into Bulstrode. You know, thinking about it, Bulstrode might be in like my top 5 childhood items ever. And here's who I had Bulstrode next to most of the time. This is my childhood Cranky. Years ago, I took off the handles and burnt the string. Yes, burnt. Like, with fire. I also often use this Cranky to squish spiders that were in my room. So I'm not gonna show you the bottom of them, but it's gross. And here's another Cranky I got in a lot. This one still has his handles, but he's also missing the string. I wonder if whatever kid owned it before me also burnt it off. That'd be interesting. Lori 1. This is actually my childhood Lori 1, and I got him through the Salty's Secret VHS bonus pack, though I am missing his iconic flatbed. And the cargo piece isn't from my childhood. I believe I found it last year in a lot. If you're wondering, his face looks very sickly because I likely bashed him into a bunch of things, and I scribbled on his face with red crown once. Hence the red eyes. Now I don't have Lori 2, as he was limited to a one-time release in a destination that only ran for 2 years, and he runs for quite a bit today. I do, however, own Lori 3. The only way you could have officially gotten Lori 3 was via redeeming enough coupons at a participating store, and then you'd be gifted a 3-pack with him, Boko, and Tiger Moth. And this was all the way back in 2002. I got my Lori 3 around 2020, and I got him for free. Yeah, that's not a joke at all. I didn't pay a single cent for him. At least, not directly. So, how did I get Lori 3? Well, I'm not gonna tell you. It's not anything bad or illegal. I didn't, take it from a train show or a little kid. I just want to have some mystery about me. Well, here's Butch, who's kinda wall-eyed. You okay there, Butch? Butch is alright. He's a bit old-fashioned looking, though. He's a bit too tall and very blocky. The word I would use to describe Butch the tow truck is bricked up. And here's CGI Butch. I think he's a vast improvement from the former, even if he's mostly plastic now. Tiger Moth. Did you know that Tiger Moth is the name of the pilot and not the name of the plane? Well, you do now. It's weird this character isn't alive. Thumper. Like Terrence, his treads are deteriorating. At least his hasn't snapped yet, though I am afraid to move his wheels because I feel like it could happen at any moment. If you were to move Thumper around, his arms would go back and forth. It's a pretty neat feature. I do wish he had more playability while static though, because that is how he is in the episode. Here's Alfie. He's an item from my childhood collection. He's held up pretty well, but it's probably because I didn't play with him all too much. I mean, I like swinging him around and stuff, but it was so lame how his bucket just couldn't pick up dirt because it wasn't hollow. Like, it's an excavator, why can't I pick up dirt? For this same reason, I've never actively pursued a wooden railway jack. Here's Monty, who I can't get to stop moving on this stupid little rig I made for this video. He's awesome, with awesome dump truck action. And here's his awesome twin cousin Monty, who is the same and won't stay still, Byron the Bulldozer. I assume he sold well because he's a bright yellow bulldozer, and also he's fairly easy to find. Elizabeth, probably one of the most forgotten Thomas characters that felt like they were a big deal when they were around. She's a solid item. Here's a second Elizabeth I completely forgot I had, so I'll use it to show that they made Elizabeth a dump truck. I always thought they added this feature just to add a play feature to the toy, but it was actually based on her concept art. That's cool, I didn't know that. And I assume Elizabeth was allowed to have an angry face because this concept art also has her original name, which was Grumpy. Huh, I actually didn't realize that till now. I honestly thought most of the Elizabeth merchandise had a cross face, but nope, it was just this and take along. And here's a faceless Elizabeth. It was pretty common of these 3 dump truck items to lose their beds, and I got this spare Elizabeth without it, so I took off the face and made it a generic flatbed truck. I had a custom bed I made out of craft sticks, but I've since lost that. Patrick the Cement Mixer. He was made pretty late in the game, in 2012, and then after that, Mattel kept making him until 2016. I assumed they kept him around so that way Jack would have someone to go with, cause, you know, Mattel didn't make the other pack members that later got introduced in the series, except for Oliver, who they gave train wheels to. That's nice. Madge, the snub-nosed lorry. I never had Madge as a kid, but I remember seeing her in the catalogs I had quite a bit, and I always wanted a truck that could pull my trains. That would have been cool, but, that never happened. I've wasted my whole life. Oh, okay. Here's Wooden Railway Lightning McQueen. Around like Cars 2 time, Cars decided it wanted to have its own wooden railway, which is weird because they're cars. They can go off-road if they want, but I think it's really cool that there's a Lightning McQueen that's compatible with a wooden railway. And I put it here because it's funny. And everything is a joke to me. Oh, but we're not done yet. Here are my Thomas Wooden knockoffs. This is a line of unofficial Thomas Wooden Railway clones, mostly of items from the late 2000s and early 2010s. Other than these 2 tankers that I have painted up, this collection was sold to me recently with the Sam and the Great Bell set. I'm not going to talk about each and every one. I'll be using these for customs at some point. Though if I'm being honest about these knockoffs, I wish they were still accessible and cheap. Buying official TWR for customs is getting more and more expensive every day, so it'd be nice to have some cannon fodder available. Here's my off-brand collection. This is things like Brio, Orbrium, etc. A lot of these have been customized. I'll let them speak for themselves. I've had these 2 since I was a little kid though, and I tried giving them faces to make them fit in with Thomas. I've had a lot of these for a real long time, so I'll probably touch them up at some point. And with that, it seems we're finally done. Oh, wait, what's in this suitcase? Oh, I forgot all about these. Alright, let's officially wrap this up with the last breath of Thomas Wooden Railway. The 2022 line. With the failure of Thomas Wood and the rollout of All Engines Go, it seemed unlikely that there'd ever even be another wooden range. If there was, I think we all figured it'd be in the style of All Engines Go. But along came these, primarily based on the post-season 23 looks of the engines, with the rivets and all. I'll talk about each one individually, but my overall thoughts on the line, well, it's a couple steps forward and a couple weird new steps in directions that don't really all work. From Thomas Wood before it, this was leaps and bounds above, but that's honestly not a high bar. I appreciate the fact that there was very clearly an effort put behind these. They are the most detailed Thomas Wooden toys out there. This straight up felt like the antithesis to Wood, with no same body repaints and extra emphasis on differentiating the engines. They made the big engines longer, introducing longer lengths with 6 and 4 wheel bogies together. There were also different wheel sizes. Even Thomas and Percy had different wheels. Okay, actually this may be the antithesis to Mattel's Thomas toys as a whole, which is great, but I feel these efforts may have been misplaced in Wooden Railway. Wooden Railway was pushing 30 years old at the time of these releases. While there were updates all throughout its history, they all still worked together stylistically. Some engines would just have more details than others. Like I did as a kid, you could play with an older Gordon alongside the 2003 engines. It's just a less detailed version, but it still fits in. But with these, it gets a lot more inconsistent. If you had a 22 James or Edward, but mostly older stuff, you'd bring them in and then they'd be longer than Gordon. I know the intent is that there'd be a lot of kids getting these as their first Wooden Thomas toys, but there's a whole backlog of over 20 years of toys. And we were, and currently are, living in an age of eBay and Facebook Marketplace. I mean, I was born in 2003, but I still had a bunch of stuff from before that year. And it isn't just stupid adult fans like me trying to buy up all the characters ever. Hop in a Facebook group, it's clearly parents too. Now, it wouldn't have been as much of an issue if this line kept going. It was based on the original series. They could have had all the time in the world to go back and make other characters, but it simply didn't. After the first year, it was over. For me personally, my greatest critique with these is the wheels. I think they are just so ugly looking. They stick out far too much. It's supposed to look like it's riding the rail, even though that part is the sleepers, even on the 2022 track. To me, this is just unnecessary. I'd say they're probably the greatest tell that these don't fit in with the old stuff. And it's a shame because they made a nice Nia, Rebecca, Kenji, and Red Rosie, but they just won't fit in due to their large wheels. But yeah, I'm just mostly mixed on these. There's a lot to like, but there's also a lot I don't like. Let's look at all I have. Thomas. Honestly, since Thomas is a lot more simple than the other engines, I can kind of view this as like how Thomas would have naturally evolved if Wooden Railway did keep going. My biggest problem with Thomas, other than his god-given wheels, are the fact he's based on his Season 23 look. I'm just not a fan of all those rivets he has all over him. His default face is a bit odd too. Edward, who they interestingly gave rivets even though he never got them in the show. Edward overall just feels too big and tall, even amongst these engines. I feel like as you add more like types of engines into Wooden Railway, it kind of opens the door where you can look at some and like analyze them more critically. He has a shocked expression, which was chosen straight from the expression sheets of the CGI series. They did this for a lot of the engines, which is cool that there's like a different face, but I think when they first came out we all thought, oh, eventually they'll release different ones with like the regular smiling face. Uh-oh, Henry, who I gotta admit is a pretty cool one. Probably one of the best of the line. I do have some small issues, like his firebox is kind of weird looking, and also his tender sits up too high, but he's overall a pretty good one. I really love the face they gave him. Gordon's alright. Like Henry, I wish they made his tender a bit lower. Honestly, it's kind of hard because now I'm kind of criticizing all the details, but these are like bigger trains that made to have all these little details, so they're easier to talk about. You know what I mean? Because like the splashes used to just be like a piece of the running board, but now they're like physical splashers. So like now I look at those and I'm like, oh, they're a little bit too tall, they're a little bit too wide. I don't know. It's weird to talk about Wooden Railway this way, but these are just so detailed. You gotta talk about it. I don't know. James, who I think has the same problem as Edward. I don't know if I'm a fan of these like middle-sized engines. He just looks so long and stretched out. It also might be all the tenders that just sit up too high. Yeah, I'm kind of realizing that. His firebox is also flush with his cab. It should be like indented just a little bit. I don't know, James looks odd. I feel like he always gets the short end of the stick. Percy. Mine's a little cracked. He kind of sits up on his back there, so he's tilting forward. I know a lot of people like this Percy. I've seen a couple people like change out the wheels and then this becomes their default Percy. Which I get, because it makes sense for him to be a bit of a smaller engine since he is. I don't know, I still kind of like the other Percy. I don't think I'm ever going to make that custom change for myself. But honestly, he might just be one of the best of this range. He's pretty good. Well, here's who may be the worst. Toby. They didn't make him flush with his cow catchers, and he's just oh so skinny because of that. If they just made him flush with the cow catchers, like, you don't even gotta make him any taller. He would have been perfectly fine. He'd probably be one of the best ones, actually, because you don't have to see his wheels. And I get choosing to do surprised faces, but why on earth did they give him a sad face? Nia. She's a solid one. I'm glad they made her bogey length. I would honestly consider doing a wheel conversion for her. But her and the entirety of this line were, and are only getting more, expensive. So if I mess it up, that means a lot of money. So I'll be careful about that. I don't understand why they had to make her boxcar such a small one. Rebecca. Another one I would consider doing a wheel conversion for, because there's not a proper Wooden Railway Rebecca. She's a solid one. She was definitely kind of hard to get wrong in Wooden Railway. I mean, she's a blocky character. Kind of fits the theme. Kenji. For the most part, he's alright. I'm not a fan of how high he sits up on his bogies. Makes him look kinda odd. I feel like there could have been a better way to do him. Like, maybe like a variation of the Arthur chassis, so that way you can have his like slope down for his streamlining. But also, that would make him not have bogies, and he has bogies in the show, so I don't know. His coach there also could have definitely been a bogey coach, so that way we could have a proper coach. Oh well. And with that, this has been my Wooden Railway collection. Oh my god, I forgot about the Sodor scrap lorry. Thank you to my Joe Swanson tier patrons. Aquamarina, Forgotten Lol Cow, Gingerboy20, Low, and the Goat Train. Well, thanks for watching me talk about wooden toys for the past 90 minutes. I sure hope this helped you in some way. I'm really tired from talking about these wooden trains. New videos are going to be on the way though, so don't even worry. Like, seriously, don't worry about it. They're coming.